Hello everyone, this is Let Us Farm. How many? Hello and welcome to Let Us Farm. My name is Emily Manuel Oge of Let Us Farm. So we are going to be talking about how to start a poultry farm. Actually, I have received messages on me discussing about starting a poultry farm, but I have decided that it's best I'm able to explain some certain ways to start a poultry farm, so that for some of us who have interest in starting poultry farm can also learn from this and then grow from the business. Yeah, so in poultry farm, poultry beds in Nigeria, we have was saying, and a poultry farm in Nigeria, we have different types of poultry beds that you can actually start a farm with. So, for instance, we have the broilers, we have the pullet or the layers, depending on who you are and how you understand it. Then we have the noiler beds, and then we have the cockerels, and then we have the turkey. All these things, they follow similar procedures. There may be differences in the time of application of vaccines for each one of them. So, but what I'm going to be dwelling on today is on broilers. But if you want to start pullet, is whatever I say today will still be applicable to pullet. Even whatever I say today will be applicable to starting all the 4 beds. The only difference, like I said, is when buying your day old, ask your supplier of your day old to give you the vaccine chart of the particular brand of bed you are buying. Example, if you are buying pullets, that's layers, you ask your supplier to give you a vaccine chart that will suit your laying beds. Now, let me quickly say this. We have 2 options of raising beds. We have the ones that we use the vaccine, which is the normal type, and then we have the organic method. But this is where people get more confused. In the vaccine type of raising beds is the one that you give the beds their regular drugs and vaccinate them when they are due for vaccination. But in the organic system is the one you use. You don't use the chemical drugs, but you use drugs that are organically produced. This is where people make mistake. Not that you don't use drugs in organic, but you use drugs that are organically produced. Example, in chemical produced drugs, what the scientists and the doctors and whatever produce drugs do is that they use chemical solutions to prepare these drugs. But in organic, they use plant herb material solutions to prepare these drugs. So these are 2 different things. But unfortunately, many people have been misled, thinking that organic means that you don't give your birds or whatever drugs or treatment. It's a lie. In fact, there is a situation that I was telling someone, his birds were having Newcastle infection. So I was telling him that he should go and use some procedures to treat it. He said, no, that is practicing organic. I said, okay, what is your organic procedure for treating Newcastle? This guy told me that you use cayenne pepper, you use Maggi, and some other things like that. Very funny things to prepare these things for the Newcastle. I said, well, I don't actually, fight people who wants to do whatever is in their mind. No, whatever is in your mind is in your mind. You can go ahead and do it. If it works out for you, fine. If it doesn't work out for you, well, it's one of those things, because you are going to lose money, because this is a life treatment, and once you make mistake, birds will die. After much, when the bird started dying, he now came back. I said, are you ready to listen now? He was like, that is like he made mistake. No, you did not make mistake. From the onset, what you are thinking is 0. Yeah, what you're thinking is 0. Actually, the organic procedure is even more expensive than the chemical procedure. That's the truth. Go and price anywhere in the world, because the organic will take time to manifest. But the advantage is that there are some people who don't like anything chemical, so they want to eat the organic, and they don't care how much you're going to sell it, because they believe that this is what they want. And that's why it takes time for the medicine to work, because it will take the natural time for it to work. So this is the differences. So if you understand this particular terminology, now what I'm going to be talking about today is the one of the medicine, the chemical, the vaccination, and all those things. That's what I'm talking about. So if you want to do the organic, well, I don't do organic in my farm. So there are people that can also help you about that, but be sure you are doing the right thing. So now, if you want to start a process of starting a farm, the first thing I always advise people, just like I talk about fish farms, is that the first thing is first identify what people actually want in your area. This is very, very important. Why? In some areas, when you produce broilers, people will not buy it like that. People are not interested in eating broilers every time. But in some areas, people do party, so they need broilers to prepare party food, party jollof, and everything like that. So in some places, broilers are on the top demand, while in some places they are not. And in those places, what is on the top demand is egg production. And if you are talking about egg production, that means the birds that you will choose should be layers or pullet. As pullet is when they are very small, they old, that's they call pullet. But when they start laying, they become layers. So either you do both of the two. Then if you want to do turkey, mostly people that raise turkey raise it for selling at during ceremonial times. People that do Salah, Christmas, Easter. So people like that, they actually raise turkey. They are target time of selling turkey. And turkey we have two types. We have the foreign breed and we have the local breed. The people that do cockerel, most people that do cockerel is not commercially viable, except you want to do cockerel with your leftovers and things like that. Okay, so that as long as it's just there eating and no problem. But if you want to do it to be commercially viable, cockerel is not that commercially viable. So but people can tell you otherwise, no problem. Then the noilers, some people keep noilers to get eggs from noilers, but mind you, the noilers ability to lay egg and that of pullet is not the same. Pullet will lay more egg than your noilers. It's the truth. So now let's proceed. So have to find out exactly what works in where you stay, because that's where you're going to sell these birds. So find out what they want the most. Do they want broilers? Do they want pullets? Do they want broilers? Do they want pullets? Or do they want noilers? So now, if you want to if you want to start a poultry farm, after finding out what people want, then the next process will be to build your cages. So we have cages, just like anything I'm saying here. You may be seeing some pictures. So you have cages, or you have a pen house. A pen house is using like a room or a hall. Those ones are pen house. Then cages is your normal cages, just like the pictures that you're going to see. So you have to construct any of these. So depending on the size of what you want to do. So after construction, the next thing you're going to do is that you need to buy your drinkers. So like I said, you'll be seeing the pictures. You need to buy your drinkers, you need to buy your feeders, then you need to buy lamp. Your drinkers is the one you use to put drinking water for them. Your feeders is the one you use in putting food for them. Then you need a lamp, because if you are brooding from day old, you need a lamp. This lamp, mind you, is not for generation of heat. No, the lamp is needed at night so that your birds will always see light and be confident. Without the light at night, you may be seeing stampeded birds in the morning dying and all those things. So they need lamp. Then you need a charcoal pot. Charcoal pot is what you use to generate heat. Now, charcoal pot, if you don't know what is a charcoal pot, it's if you see people that roast corn, that thing they use in roasting, that's the pan, the sand, and the charcoal inside is what we call charcoal pot. There are different types of charcoal pot. That basically is not only the charcoal pot, but you can use it just like the pictures you're seeing now. So either you use a charcoal pot or you use a gas burner. Gas burner is the more modernized way, so that you put the gas burner and it heats up the room. But consider cost of gas, consider cost of charcoal, do your cost analysis before choosing which one you want to use. So after getting all these things, the next thing you now have to do is you have to go and book your beds. Whoever your supplier is, you call your supplier and tell them that, hey, I want to buy beds. So you book your beds for day old. If you don't want to do day old, well, you can take all these procedures and join wherever you want to join. But what I'm talking about is for people that want to start it from day old. So if you're not starting from day old, you can just lay down the procedures I have said, then buy your beds and start. Find out when you're supposed to start from your supplier, and when you're supposed to start the vaccine. Vaccine is very important too. Very, very important. Birds need vaccine for treatment, regular treatment. Anytime you miss a vaccine, something may happen. So after booking your birds, the next thing you are going to do is like the room or the cage that you have worked on, you need to wash the room or the cage, So in washing the room or the cage that you want to use and do your beds, I will advise you to use hypo and any detergent, any strong detergent. The reason is for it to be able to help you to kill any germs and any infection that may be on the room before you put down your beds. So after that, you allow the room cage, whatever you're using, to dry. Sometimes you can give it 2 to 3 days for it to dry. Just make sure that everywhere is completely dry. Now, the way I do my own things, after the room is very dry, you now go and bring your wood shaving. Wood shaving is what you put on the floor so that the birds don't hit their legs on the floor. You put your wood shavings. There is difference between wood shaving and sawdust. Sawdust is the one that looks like powder. What you see on the screen now is wood shaving. That's the best to use so that your birds do not eat your sawdust. If they eat the sawdust, they can have CRD, cough. So that's why you use the wood shaving instead of the sawdust. So for me, after putting the sawdust, what I do is I get my polydine. If you don't have polydine, you can still use hypo and sprinkle on top of this sawdust, just to help you to disinfect it. But better you use polydine, or you ask any veterinary doctor around you to any disinfectant they have. You have polydine, you have marigold, you have many of them. So you can use it, just spread it on top of the sawdust, on top of the wood shaving, sorry. Spread it on top of the wood shaving and allow it to dry again for another 2 days. I did not say soak, I say spread. For me, I always like spreading it on the wall of the cage or the wall of the buildings and up, so that in case if there's anything there. So because remember, you are bringing this wood shaving from a carpenter farm, a carpenter office or something like that, or sawmill. So there could be infections, there could be germs there. So when you spread this thing, it helps you to kill whatever is there. Now after you have done that, before your birds come, this is what I practice. So before the arrival of the birds, for me, if your birds are coming in, let's say they are coming in around 11-12 today, around 9 a.m, go and put on your gas burner or your charcoal to heat up the place before the birds arrive. If they are coming in the evening, like 1 hour or 2 hours before they arrive, try and heat up the place, so that the place will have this mild temperature by the time they come, so that they will now adapt to the new environment. Now, like I said, whoever is supplying you the birds is supposed to give you your vaccine chart. Once your birds come, start with the vaccine chart. Please do not drop the ball by missing any of their vaccine. It's very important. If you miss the vaccine, it may not have effect now, but at a later day, you will now start seeing the effect. So, like I said, you'll be watching some pictures to understand exactly some of these things I say and the practice how it's done. Now, on the first day your birds come, very important, give them glucose. Mix glucose in their water. In the 4-liter container, that's the small white and red container, that's 4 liter. That 4 liter, use the baby spoon you normally use in feeding baby, full that spoon too and put inside, then give it to them, let them drink. Put it in all the container and let them drink. The first day your birds come, what they need most is that water, and inside the water put the glucose plus the heat that is in that room. Then you can, if you want to feed them that day, but many of them will not eat because they are stressed out, but no problem, put food for them, put small food for them. Don't go and feel they are feeding this thing so that they don't waste it for you. For the first 3-4 days, you don't need to be filling up the feeders. Just put small food for them. So when you just check back and you see that they've eaten it, you add more. But when you make it full, they're going to enter inside it and use their leg to scatter it. Remember, at this period, they don't even know what is food. So they are trying to learn everything from you. Like I said, you stick with your supplier's vaccine chart, and then from there, you can proceed from giving your birds their daily dosage of vaccine. Now you may be wondering, how many days are you going to leave this heat? Good. This heat you are providing for your birds, they are, for me, what I practice for broilers, when their feathers start coming out, that's 10 days after you stock them, you are going to be putting the heat morning, afternoon, night. When it gets to like 8 days, what I do is I watch the weather. If it's not that hot, but the weather is not hot outside, but the inside the rooms are not that cold again, so what I normally do is I put the charcoal overnight. Between 12 and 4, I skip the heat. This thing I'm telling you, you have to monitor it. If you just do it that I said, and you go and cold catch your birds and they die, well, it's your problem, not my problem. So try and understand exactly what I'm saying. So from the 8th day, you can start skipping from 12 to 4, so that the weather at that time is getting hot, right? And when you get to the 10th day, you expand it. So it will now be like from 11 to 6 p.m. You skip the heat, but you are still giving heat from 6 p.m. to 11 a.m. You skip the heat. So when these broilers now get to, you did this one on the 10th day. Remember the one you did on the 8th day? You did this one on the 10th day. So on the 12th day, they are supposed to have gotten their feathers, then you skip the heat. But for pullet, that's the laying birds, for me, I still allow them to be on heat until 15 days. That's 2 weeks and 1 day. So after that, you skip the heat. You don't even put it again at night, and they'll be fine. And remember, your night lamp is very important. For me, I used to leave my light lamp until my birds are 3 weeks, so that I'll be very, very sure that they are comfortable sleeping without light. It's not as if the light is going to add anything, but the light helps them to understand what goes on at night. So sometimes rats may just run at this bed to stampede. Anything may just happen. Shadow, they are afraid. So, but from 3 weeks, they won't be afraid again. They will be able to like withstand whatever happens. So that's how you start your poultry farm. Now, if maybe you don't understand any of the steps that I have said, okay, you can use the comment section. But if you do understand, that's very good, and you start the poultry farm. Now, before I forget, your poultry pen, that's the room that you're using, or your cage, please, before you put in these beds, before the arrival of these birds, when you finish washing and allowing it to dry, make sure you buy nylon, thick nylon, to cover all the outside. You need to cover everywhere so that you trap all the heat inside. I usually do this after washing and drying, so that I don't trap damp weather inside the poultry farm, because your birds actually need fresh air. So you have to make sure that they also get the best, so that they give you the best result. So make sure you clean it up like that. With this, your everywhere will be smelling and clean, clear, have clean, clear air. And I'm assuring you, your birds, if you feed them well, they will give you the best result. Now you may be wondering, which feed do you start with? For broilers, you start with your super starter feed. Now, for layers, the best feed to start for them is what you call chick mash. But most companies don't produce chick feed. Now, if you want to put your broiler and the layers on their first day, do not bother. Just start with the super starter. After 2 weeks, separate the layers, put them in their own side, and continue with your starter. Do not keep giving them the super starter to make them to develop fat, and you don't want fat, so that they can give you better laying eggs. Now, for me, on the best practice, your broilers should be 3 weeks on your super starter, then you switch to finisher until you sell the birds. Then for your layers, when you start with your starter, or maybe whatever happens, when they get to 6 weeks, some used to switch at 4 weeks, but me, I used to carry my own to 6 weeks. From 6-7 weeks, you switch to your grower. They will be on grower until they start laying. When they start laying, 10% of their laying, you now start mixing your grower and your layers mash. When they are like a week or 2 after mixing, you now switch to your layers mash. But if it is your cockerel, you just give them your starter feed for 2-3 weeks, switch to your grower feed until whenever you want to sell them. Like I said, they are not economically viable. So if you waste money on their feed, it's not going to pay you, and they stay very long with you. So on Noila, what you do is that, for me, you feed them to 4 weeks with your starter, then you switch to your finisher, depending on what you plan to do with them, because some people want to keep them for very long time. If that's the case, you give them the starter for 4 weeks and you switch them to your grower feed until they start laying, or until you want, when you are now like 4 weeks to when you want to sell them, you switch to your finisher. So that's what you do for them, because they also stay long before you sell, so that you don't waste too much money on feeding them. Then for your turkey, your first 4 weeks, you feed them on your starter or your super starter. After that, you switch to finisher. They need weight. But sometimes, because it is local, if it's local turkey that will stay too long, there's no need. After 4 weeks, put them on grower until 4 weeks to when you want to sell them, you switch to finisher. But at that period, make sure you always give them calcium drugs, because they may have some bone issues as they are having more body weight. But if it is the broiler turkey, when they are 6 weeks, switch them to the finisher, because these ones will always be getting body weight so much.